Our opening words this morning are by the Reverend Patrick Murphin. We believe that many streams join to make a river, that the way of wisdom lies in an open ear and heart, that goodness may be pursued for the sake of goodness and not from fear of punishment, that knowing and not knowing are part of the same, and ambiguity is permissible. Welcome, everybody, to our second virtual service during this time of physical distancing, intentional restraint, and great ambiguity. Indeed, it is good to have a community like ours to help us stay connected, remain engaged, and not lose sight of the things we value most in life. Once again, I say, welcome. And now, as Barbara Bryce comes up to light our chalice, I'm going to read the words by Julianne Lepp. We seek our place in the world and the answer to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths.
Good morning. Today we have a story for all ages, but first I need to send a special greeting to our RE students, our wonderful Seekers class, our amazing Neighboring Faiths class. We miss you, we miss having classes with you, and we will be so happy when we see you again. And now, as Jill would say, I have a story for you. My story needs a little bit of background. So right now, we all know all the people all over the world are having a really tough time. This new virus that is spreading everywhere with bad germs is causing an awful lot of trouble. But we know what we can do to help take care of ourselves. We are washing our hands, we're using hand sanitizer, we're cleaning, we're making sure we have enough toilet paper, we're keeping our distance from each other, and we're staying at home, close to home. This means we're missing school, missing work, missing church, missing being with our family and friends, missing being in shows and seeing shows and sports. But all of this is so important because it helps keep us safe and help keep ourselves and everybody else much safer and help stopping the spread of these nasty germs. So this is not the first time that people have had really bad trouble. And my story today will talk about a time of bad trouble that happened right here in the United States about 85 years ago, out west in the Great Plains. Now, in the Great Plains, that was where the prairie grass grew tall and rich and thick, and the buffalo ran, and people wanted to move out there, and they wanted to farm the land. So more and more people moved out. But they made a big mistake. They cut down all the trees, and more importantly, they cut down the beautiful, thick, rich prairie grass, and they planted their farms. Now, on years when it rained, this worked out fine. But during years where it didn't rain and there was drought, it didn't go so well. You see, the soil really needed the thick, rich, deep roots of the prairie grass to hold it in place. So when it didn't rain and the big winds came, it blew up all the soil, and huge dust storms went all over. And then the dust would fall and the crops could not grow. Now, the good news is that people have figured out how to farm out in the Great Plains without making this big mistake. But back then, it was so bad, it was called the Dust Bowl. So our story today is from the Dust Bowl days, and it's called Leah's Pony. It's by Elizabeth Friedrich and illustrated by Michael Garland. There we go. The year the corn grew tall and straight, Leah's papa bought her a pony. The pony was strong and swift and sturdy, with just a snip of white at the end of his soft black nose. Papa taught Leah to place her saddle right in the middle of his back and tighten the girth around his belly just so. That whole summer, Leah and her pony crossed through the cloud-capped cornfields and chased cattle through the pasture. Leah scratched that special spot under her pony's mane and brushed him till his coat glistened like satin. Each day, Leah loved to ride her pony into town just to hear Mr. B shout from the door of his grocery store, "That's the finest pony in the whole county." The year the corn grew no taller than a man's thumb, Leah's house became very quiet. Sometimes on those hot, dry nights, Leah heard Papa and Mama's hushed voice whispering in the kitchen. She couldn't understand the words, but she knew their sad sound. Some days the wind blew so hard it turned the sky black with dust. It was hard for Leah to keep her pony's coat shining. It was hard for Mama to keep the house clean. It was hard for Papa to carry buckets of water for the sow and her piglets. Soon, Papa sold the pigs and even some of the cattle. "These are hard times," he told Leah with a puzzled look. "That's what these days are, all right, hard times." Mama used flour sacks to make underwear for Leah. Mama threw dishwater on her drooping petunias to keep them growing. And no matter what else happened, Mama always woke Leah on Saturday with the smell of fresh, hot coffee cake baking. One hot, dry, dusty day, grasshoppers turned the day to night. They ate the trees bare and left only twigs behind. The next day, the neighbors filled their truck with all they owned and stopped to say goodbye. "We're off to Oregon," they said. "It must be better there." Papa, Mama, and Leah waved as their neighbors wobbled down the road in an old truck, overflowing with chairs and bed springs and wire. The hot, dry, dusty days kept coming. On a day you could almost taste the earth in the air, Papa said, "I have something to tell you, Leah, and I want you to be brave. I borrowed money from the bank. I bought seeds, but the seeds dried up and blew away. Nothing grew. I don't have any corn to sell. Now I can't pay back the bank." Papa paused. "They're going to have an auction, Leah. They're going to sell the cattle and the chickens and the pickup truck." Leah stared at Papa. His voice grew husky and soft. "Worst of all, They're going to sell my tractor. I'll never be able to plant corn when she's gone. Without my tractor, we might even have to leave the farm. I told you, Leah, these are hard times. Leah knew what an auction was. She knew eager faces with strange voices would come to their farm. They would stand outside and offer money for Papa's best bull and Mama's prize rooster and Leah's favorite calf. All week, Leah worried and waited and wondered what to do. One morning, she watched as a man in a big hat hammered a sign into the ground in front of her house. Farm auction today. Leah wanted to run away. She raced her pony past empty fields lined with dry gullies. She galloped past a house with rags stuffed in broken window panes. She sped right past Mr. B, sweeping the steps outside his store. At last, Leah knew what she had to do. She turned her pony around and rode back into town. She stopped in front of Mr. B's store. "You can buy my pony," she said. Mr. B stopped sweeping and stared at her. "Why would you want to sell him?" he asked. "That's the finest pony in the county." Leah swallowed hard. "I've grown a lot this summer," she said. "I'm getting too big for him." Sunburned soil crunched under Leah's feet as she walked home alone. The auction had begun. Neighbors, friends, strangers, everyone clustered around the man in the big hat. "How much for this wagon?" boomed the man. $5, $10, sold for $15 to the man in the green shirt. Papa's best bull, sold. Mama's prize rooster, sold. Leah's favorite calf, sold. Leah clutched her money in her hand. "It has to be enough," she whispered to herself. "It just has to be." "Here's one of the best items in this entire auction," yelled the man in the big hat. "Who'll start the bidding at $500 for this practically new all-purpose farm-haul tractor? It'll plant, plow, fertilize, and even cultivate for you." It was time. Leah's voice shook. $1. The man in the big hat laughed. "Huh, that's a low starting bid if I ever heard one," he said. "Now let's hear some serious bids." No one moved. No one said a word. No one even seemed to breathe. "Ladies and gentlemen, this tractor is a beauty. I have a bid of only $1 for it. $1 for this practically new farm-haul tractor. Do I hear any other bids?" Again, no one moved. No one said a word. No one even seemed to breathe. "This is ridiculous," the man's voice boomed out from under his hat into the silence. "Sold to the young lady for $1. The crowd cheered. Papa's mouth hung open. Mama cried. Leah proudly walked up and handed $1 to the auctioneer in the big hat. "That young lady bought one fine tractor for one very low price," the man continued. "Now, how much am I to bid for this flock of healthy young chickens?" "I'll give you 10 cents, offered a farmer who lived down the road. 10 cents? 10 cents is mighty cheap for a whole flock of chickens," the man said. His face looked angry. No one moved. No one said a word. No one even seemed to breathe. "Sold for 10 cents. The farmer picked up the cage filled with the chickens and walked over to Mama. "These chickens are yours," he said. The man pushed his big hat back on his head. "How much for this good Ford pickup truck?" he asked. 25 cents, yelled a neighbor from town. Again, no one moved. No one said a word. No one even seemed to breathe. "Sold for 25 cents. The man in the big hat shook his head. "This isn't supposed to be a penny auction," he shouted. The neighbor paid his 25 cents and took the keys to the pickup truck. "I think these will start your truck," he whispered as he dropped the keys into Papa's shirt pocket. Leah watched as friends and neighbors bid a penny for a chicken, or a nickel for a cow, or a quarter for a plow. One by one, they gave everything back to Mama and Papa. The crowds left. The sign disappeared. Chickens scratched in their coop, and the cattle called for their corn. The farm was quiet. Too quiet. No familiar whinny greeted Leah when she entered the barn. Leah swallowed hard and straightened her back. That night, in Leah's hushed house, no sad voices whispered in the kitchen. Only Leah lay awake, listening to the clock chime 9, even 10 times. Leah's heart seemed to copy its slow, sad beat. The next morning, Leah forced open the heavy barn doors to start her chores. A loud whinny greeted her. Leah ran and hugged the familiar furry neck and kissed the white snip of a nose. "You're back," she cried. "How did you get here?" Then Leah noticed the note tied to her pony's halter. "Dear Leah, this is the finest pony in the county, but he's a little bit too small for me and a little bit too big for my grandson. He fits you much better. Your friend, Mr. B. P.S. I heard how you saved your family's farm. These hard times won't last forever." And they didn't.
Peace I ask of thee, O river. Peace, peace, peace. When I learn to live serenely, cares will cease. From the hills I gather courage, visions of the days to be, strength to lead and faith to follow. All are given unto me. Peace I ask of thee, O river. Peace, peace, peace.
Our reading is called Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters by Portia Nelson. Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes me forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down another street. The message today is called Between Wisdom and Love. In my hometown, there was an intersection that 5 streets fed into, or 6 if you didn't realize that the one that ran between the Elks Lodge and the Catholic Church parking lot was a one-way away from the distinct possibility of a fender bender or fatality at the 5 corners. There were no stoplights to give the drivers good orderly direction at the patch we called the 5 corners, and very little signage. Those things might have been helpful. I remember there were a few traffic islands, one between the VFW parking lot and a local saloon. So small was this island that only 2 pedestrians braving the traffic to cross one of the streets could stand on it at once. But then again, because it was so small and rather low and unpainted, this island was often enough plowed over by drivers as it was walked over by pedestrians. I always thought that it was a metaphor for life, that insane intersection, with cars coming at each other from all directions, where there were certain expectations, I wouldn't quite call it an etiquette, that you could often depend on to avoid crashes, but only if it were other townies barreling toward the unclaimed half-acre of open, unmarked pavement within the 5 corners. Of course, there was always the wild card of a Catholic, filled with the sublime beauty of the Mass, or an elk filled with inebriants even cheaper than communion wine, decided that the one-way street really ought to be 2 ways. In that intersection, you really took your life in your hands, dodging other cars, keeping an eye out for kids on bikes or on foot, oblivious to the danger as they rolled or dashed to the old newsstand. There were often folks trying to shoot across streets or cut corners, their eyes bold and their chins set as if they were dodging the bulls at Pamplona. To them, the shortest way between 2 points was my way. If we could get away with it, I would spend much of our time together exploring what is most important in our lives, what is its purpose, and how do we avoid the traffic of emotions, the noise of fear, and the delusion of projecting anxiety that buries over our innate abilities, unique skills, our particular gifts, our intuitive and experiential wisdom, learning, and curiosity. Wisdom says we are nothing. Love says that we are everything. Between these two, our life flows. When I first read this quote by Jack Kornfield, the Buddhist, I said, yes, that's it, exactly. We flow between these two poles, love and wisdom. In fact, it seemed very much in keeping with our 7 gathering UU principles, the first of which holds up as inherent the worth and dignity of every person, which is to say, among other things, all people deserve to be loved, honored, and heard. And the last 2, 6 and 7, call us first to help create a genuine world community. And if that isn't enough, to always remember that we are just a small part of a great, complex network of ever-changing, interconnected, entwined relationships. Principles 2 and 5 are guides to the process of doing just that, getting just to that place. We have a place and a time for living in which we may contribute, but as it is time-bound, we would do well to walk humbly beneath the stars and marvel at the abundance of life despite our interference with it. Wisdom says we are nothing. At first, this seems a misrepresentation of wisdom, unless he means the understanding of things from a distance, with the long view, the accumulated learnings of those who study, often alone or in small communities, with a mind wide open to the whole human condition. Such observations are meant to be distinctive to the truth about all people, seen by those who are beyond clinging to other people, looking for little indulgences or the pernicious influence of self, when all are an interconnected one. There is a story in the Sufi tradition by and about Bayezid, a mystic of that tradition. He said, "When I was young and zealous, I directed my prayers to God saying, 'Give me the strength to change the whole world because it needs it.' When Bayezid got a little older and was the head of a household, he also got a little wiser and changed his prayers to, 'God, I have tried to change the world, but I haven't made a dent in it. It is so hard to change one person, so give me the energy to change my family. Let me focus on them and do my work at home.' More time passed, and as Bayezid said, he started to pray to God thusly, 'And now I am an old man, and I realize changing my family is too much. And who am I to change them? But I feel that I have come around to what is the best and only thing I can ask of you now. Please give me the will and the strength to change myself.' At which God said to Bayezid, 'But now there is no time. You should have begun with this request.' And then there was time. Wisdom is the hard truth that we are not so special, that nothing applies to us that might not be useful to another, that we get to skip certain stages along the road to wisdom. Wisdom is a brisk wind and astringent perhaps, but it is also the gentle reminder that we mustn't get lost in the traffic. There is another Sufi tale that I just discovered and really love. It's called The Sun and the Cave. One day, the sun and a cave struck up a conversation. The sun had trouble understanding what dark and dank meant, and the cave didn't quite get the hang of light and clear, so they decided to change places. The cave went up to the sun and said, "Ah, I see this is beyond wonderful. Now come down and see where I have been living." The sun went down to the cave and said, "Gee, I don't see any difference." I think that may underscore what is meant by love says we are everything. We are sowers of seeds, creators of beauty. We are also relationship builders, meaning makers, movers, shakers, singular and special. If we have known love and built a life upon it, we are embracing enchantment in the reality that we are in all, and all that is beyond us is also part of who we are. We are not meant to be alone. And when we are in the embrace of love, those we get to know, even so many people that we meet from the first, are fascinating. The experience of curiosity and wonder springs from the knowledge that we are here for a reason, to love our way into genuine unitary being. So to see the good in others and to work for justice becomes natural. Not because we are selfish, but our self-definition includes the places where we overlap and share the concerns of others. Why would lovers of living not affirm the work of justice when, as Cornel West says it, that we must never forget that justice is what love looks like in public. West's credo is that of those who are lovers of life despite its ugliness, confusion, and violence. Lovers of living who hold justice as a sacrament and try to know, understand, and better their world. "I have tried to be a man," said Dr. West, "of letters, in love with ideas, in order to be a wiser and more loving person, hoping to leave the world just a little better than I found it." Between these two, life flows. I would like to believe that it is between the poles of wisdom and love that our lives flow. However, I've now some years, and I can only return to that intersection of life and death, ignorance and knowledge, habits and callings, the experience of daring and doing, and reason with its passion for facts and need for results. Into that intersection where life and death are negotiated, we must acquire and bring our wisdom, our love and creativity, our intuition, experience. All that we have is needed every day as we come to that intersection. Not only for our lives, but all life. Not only for our desires, but the needs of each and all. The ultimate wisdom is the fullest expression of love when the many are at last one. So let it be as it should be. Our good words for the our leave taking today actually have a little backstory. A friend of mine, someone I know on Facebook, was going forth and talking about faith and how it changes lives and all. And I was in a bit of a mood. And it sounded so easy, faith, that I wrote back to him, an old friend who loves me in spite of all my flaws, this. You know what faith is? Faith is getting up in the morning whether you want to or not, whether you stumbled and fell so many times that the only reasonable response to life just might be to give up or give in, and yet you go forth. It is slowing your thinking down enough to see the beauty in people, in nature, to feel a kinship with the screeching hawk and the squealing mouse, to feel in each blowing wind the breath of life, and to know that mystery, interconnection, and love are part of that bargain. It's living honestly, humbly, and freely, whether or not there is a God that is watching you. Bright blessings to you all. May the road rise to meet you. Go in peace and with a purpose, intelligence, wisdom, intuition, and love to guide you.
There's a dark and a troubled side of life. There's a bright and a sunny side too. Though you meet with the darkness and strife, the sunny side may always find you. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all the way if we keep on the sunny side of life. Oh, the storm and its fury broke today, crushing hopes that we cherish so dear. Clouds and storms will in time pass away. The sun will shine again bright and clear. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all the way if we keep on the sunny side of life. Let us greet with a song of hope each day. Though the moment be cloudy or fair, let us trust one another and pray to keep each other in our care. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all the way if we keep on the sunny side of life. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all the way if
We keep on the sunny side of life.
On the sunny side.
Keep on the sunny side of life. Yeehaw! Hey there. I hope you enjoyed today's service. And I decided not to do words for the offering today because I know that you are doing the best you can with so many things right now. If you think of it and you feel motivated, send your check in by mail. That'd be fine. And if you can't right now, because there's a lot of stuff going on in people's lives, and I know some folks are getting their hours cut down and all, I want you to know you have a church anytime, whether you got a big, donation or you have nothing at all but the love in your heart. You are a generous people.